am going to make this a very informal session. So what I'm going to share with you are some of the mistakes that the users that I've supported in the past years, some of the common mistakes that they make when they try to work with their images. So what I'm going to do is just do a quick presentation of 3 points, and then I will also show some examples of what I am talking about. Feel free to ask questions or stop me at any time to make some clarifications. Let's see what the chat says. Please start presentation mode. Okay, brother, I'm going to keep it in this mode because I'm going to switch between Fiji or rather ImageJ and PowerPoint. So it's going to be quite inconvenient if I don't share my whole desktop. Thank you. All right, so as Radha has said, I've just recently joined NOBIC. I'm glad to be here. It's come as a surprise to some of my former colleagues, but now the news is out in the open. And today is my second day at work. Okay, back to the talk. Okay, 3 common mistakes that I want to talk about, or 3 common issues. One is image is saved in the wrong format. Second one is about adjusting the brightness of the image when you want to show the image to other people. And the third thing is overlaying of images taken at different focus positions when you make a merged image. This applies when you are taking fluorescence images and if you have more than 1 fluorescence label in your sample. So going on to the first one, image format. One of the things that I often encounter in helping other people with their microscopy work is that sometimes they will come to me and they say, Esther, I've got this whole lot of images and I want to start analyzing them. How can I measure the size of the cells in my whole set of images? And then they'll show me the images and then I'll look at it and I say, but your images are in the JPEG format. So then I would say, oops, I cannot help you with the actual quantitative measurement of the size of your cells because I don't know what the actual size is from a JPEG image. So that's one of the problems when a person has a microscope image. Normally, if it's taken from, say, a Zeiss microscope, is taken in an original format, and often they will save it as a different format so that you can work on it with other software to look at the images or to quantify the image. So you can save either as, there are many different formats in which you can save the original image, but 2 of the most common ones are TIFF format and JPEG format. So I'm just going to go into a little bit of discussion about, let me try and move this window, yes, about the differences between the 2 types of image formats. So TIFF contains all the information that's important for analysis from the original image format. So if you ever want to do quantitative analysis, like you want to measure size of structures, you want to check the intensity of your fluorescence signals, the image you're working with has to be at least in the TIFF format, if not the original image format, or what we call the machine format. However, the TIFF image, although it's compressed, is still relatively large compared to a JPEG image. A JPEG has much more compression because a lot of the data is lost during compression. And you will end up with a very small image, easy to transport, easy to share across different media. So the JPEG is very useful if you just want to make presentations and you just want to show what the cells look like or what the tissues look like. You can use JPEG in your PowerPoint presentations, and especially if your collaborators do not have proper imaging software. Okay, so before I do a demo of what I've just said, I'll just show you a screenshot of the two different image formats. This is, excuse me. So this, on the left, we see a screenshot of a TIFF format image shown in ImageJ, and on the right is the JPEG format. So if you look at them, eyeballing them, the 2 don't look that much different. Visually, they look like you can see all the details. So for looking at the image, it's fine. A JPEG is good. And you can see the advantage of JPEG in the file size is only 73 KB compared to the TIFF image, which is 2,841 KB. But one thing which I mentioned before regarding the units of measurement, in a TIFF image, you have the units in microns, whereas in the JPEG image, you only have pixel. So you don't have the information of the size of the things in the image. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is to launch my ImageJ. Actually, I've already got it. Can you guys see my ImageJ menu? Okay, let me move things around. So in ImageJ, I'm going to open a TIFF image. Okay, so you can't see. Let me new share, and yeah, I am sharing my screen. Okay, now can you see my desktop? Yeah, okay, great. So I have ImageJ open. I'm going to open a TIFF file, the same one that I showed you in my PowerPoint. And it is this one. So here you can see the units in microns. And if I save this as a JPEG, save as JPEG, and let's just say JPEG image. Okay, so I'll open that one up. Open JPEG image. Okay, so they look very similar, yeah. But if we look at the upper left of each image, you see this image no longer has the measurement data. It only has pixels, whereas the original, the TIFF image has measurement data. So you can actually make measurements in this image. Okay. And just to show you that I wasn't lying about the file size. So if you can see here, the original image is this one, 20x aorta. It is 2,841. The JPEG image is 73 KB. Okay. The other thing which I will move on now to my next PowerPoint slide, and I want to talk to you about adjusting brightness. I will use the TIFF image to show what I mean to you. So when you do an experiment, let's say you have a group of cells which are control cells, and then a group of cells which have some kind of treatment or whatever, and you want to compare the effect of the treatment. So when you acquire images of these two sets of conditions, you would make the acquisition under the same conditions. And then you can validly compare the samples to look at the effect of the treatment. So what I'm saying here is all images should be acquired under the same conditions. So do not change acquisition parameters to make the image look brighter. Why do I say this? Because I often come across users who are using the microscope and I ask them, why are you making it so bright? And sometimes they make the acquisition parameters set so bright so that the image looks nice that it becomes saturated. And then that's when you can't really make good quantification of the image. So I often tell them, you acquire it under the right conditions, but if you think the image looks too dim, you can adjust the histogram to make it look brighter. So later on, I'll show you how this can be done in ImageJ. So the histogram is actually just every digital image has a histogram that plots the level of brightness on the x-axis and the number of pixels of each level of brightness on the y-axis. So we can control what brightness to display in the image. This is done by changing the minimum and maximum values of the display histogram, which I will also show you. So let's go there now, back to image J. I will use this one, the TIFF image. Let me close this. Okay. When we want to adjust the brightness of the image, we can use this tool, which shows the histogram. This is the brightness or intensity levels on the x-axis, number of pixels of that level on the y-axis. If I want to make the image brighter, I can always change the display, the maximum of display, to make the image brighter. This does not change the actual intensity value of the pixels in the image. So let me just show you by taking some measurements. For example, if I draw an ROI of one part of the image, let's say here, and I measure the mean intensity. So mean intensity of that area is 2,271. If I change the value of the maximum display value and I measure it again, the mean intensity remains the same. So this shows you the actual intensity value of all the pixels in this image, even though it looks very bright, it's still the same. It just changes the display. Okay. And so the other question is, how do you present many images if you want to compare, say, whether one image is brighter than the other image? You can, as you can see, when I adjust the maximum, I can make the image look brighter or darker, right? So if you want to show many images, you have to show the same adjustments. So if you're using image J, it's easy to do. Let me just take away the ROI. Okay, and reset. Okay, so if you want to set the maximum at a particular value, all I have to do is come here and say, I want to set my maximum at, say, 7,000. Okay, and there, so you can set this for all your images, and then you'll be comparing it at the correct settings, not one brighter than the other, arbitrarily set by you, so that you don't mislead your audience. Okay. And let me see what else I want to talk about. Yeah, that's the second point. The third point, this one is, I encounter this quite often. If a person has a sample with more than one fluorescence label, so they will be taking images of each fluorescence, and then they will overlay the images together to make a composite image. A lot of times I will see that they like to adjust the focus of each image when they change the fluorescence channel. So they may take the green fluorescence at one focal plane, and then they will switch to the red fluorescence channel, and then they'll say, oh, it looks out of focus. So let me adjust the focus, and then I'll take the picture. And then after that, because this is a sample with two colors, they will overlay the red and the green, and they say, that's my sample. Now, this is a mistake, because let me just show it to you here. Let's say you have a sample with a green blob, a green vesicle maybe, and a red vesicle. If they are we're looking sideways onto the sample, so the green is in a position that's above the red structure. So when you focus on green, the red will look out of focus. If you focus on red, the green will look out of focus. So most people, especially beginners in microscopy, they want everything to be in focus when they overlay the image. But if they do that, they take one image at Z1, they take one image at Z2, then they overlay. The person who looks at the merged image will think, oh, the green and the red are at the same level, which is not the truth. So I often have to convince my users, my past users, that they're not supposed to do this. If they want to do this, they have to say that it's a projection image. It's not, yeah, so that they are clear, the user, the people who look at the image know that the two colors may not be exactly at the same focal plane in the sample. Okay, so then comes to the point of most of the samples that we put under the microscope, they are 3D, they are not flat, right? They have 3 dimensions. So how do you get the information of the 3-dimensional nature across? This is where confocal microscope is really useful, because you can take a 3D stack of images and then you can use a convenient software like ImageJ to display it in 3D, render it in 3D, so that you can look at the relative positions of the green and the red spots, for example. So I'm going to just quickly do one example from ImageJ again. Here. I can close this one and this one. And let me open up, open a 3D stack, which I have prepared, is this one. Okay, so we have a 2-channel green and red image with 25 slices, 25 focal positions. Yes, so you can see that the structures change as you step through the different depths of the sample. So if you have a confocal image series like this, you can present it by doing a 3D projection, so that when you actually play the image, so the software is doing the 3D projection now. I'll take the chance to take a drink. Okay, so with the projection, you are able to display the image so that it looks, you can look at it, you know, in their actual relative orientation to each other, the green and the red. You can see that they are relative positions rather to each other. Okay, which I think is quite nice. The other thing you can do, of course, is you can look at the orthogonal views. Some people have some difficulty visualizing a 3D stack with orthogonal views, but I find it quite useful to show. So I'm just going to quickly show you how you can get orthogonal views from a 3D stack. So the original image on the top left corner, this is the XY view. You're looking at the lateral image XY, like looking at from the top of the sample. And on the right hand side, we have the YZ view. So you're looking sideways at the image, and where the crosshair is, this one here. Okay. So if I move the vertical crosshair, it's like I'm slicing through the object vertically, and this image on the right shows you what you're looking at where the slice position is. Okay, and there is also an XZ view here. My screen is not big enough to show everything. So if you move this other crosshair, you can see the slice view, horizontal slice views. Okay. Yeah, this is one of the most common ways to show 3D data actually, if you don't have a more complicated imaging software to visualize your 3D data. Okay, so that's all. These are the 3 points that I wanted to share with you today, because these are the ones that I frequently encounter in the time that I've been supporting other people with their imaging experiments. And I will just go on to wait to see if you have any questions.